Hi everyone, I'm so excited to share my new palette with you. It's called Sunset Palette and they're handmade watercolors by me, and they're also vegan, so there is no honey in them. So today I'm going to give you a in-depth look into these colors. There are 4 of them, and also for the first time I will be sharing the pigments that I put into these watercolors because I had a lot of requests to do that, and having taken it into consideration, I decided to share the pigments this time. As I began making watercolors, I was experimenting, but as I progressed with each palette, I started to invest into high quality artist grade pigments because I wanted my watercolors to not just be for craft related projects, but to be used by artists. And so for that reason, I decided to share the pigments because obviously when artists buy watercolors, including myself, we would like to know the light fastness of them so that we could also use it in our work and not just in sketchbooks. So that's why you will have the pigment info today. The inspiration behind this palette are walks on the beach during sunset. The colors that you can see and the seaweed and all of that sort of beautiful seaside good stuff. So that's the inspiration for this palette. And although the seaside is the idea that I had in mind when creating these colors can be translated into florals. As you can see on the sticker here, I have designed a nice little floral arrangement. And also obviously you can use it for anything you want. This particular palette is also good for portrait and skin tones, and we will look into that slightly later in the video. So let's look at the names of these colors. So we have the first one is Sargassum. Now Sargassum is a type of a seaweed, and it kind of has this beautiful golden glow about it, this sort of warm orangey glow. Sometimes it can lean towards gold greens and sometimes it's more of a orange green, so it's a really complex, beautiful color, and I love that seaweed. I have a thing for, you know, botanical art, and whenever you're by the seaside, I think seashells and seaweed is sort of something I could never stop being fascinated about, the colors, the textures, and all of that good stuff. So as you can see, it's a beautiful orange. The second color is a red, and it's a very fiery red. It's called red seagrass. It's basically also a type of algae, and it's one of the oldest actually, and the one that has a lot of varieties, something crazy like 7,000 different varieties that go under that red algae umbrella. Then we have this color here, which is Sandy Toes. And again, I just wanted to bring that mood of walking on a beautiful warm sand and getting your toes kind of, you know, massaged in those little sun particles, and it just feels so lovely and summery and such a nice relaxed atmosphere. So that's the color here, and it's kind of like a taupey nude type of a color. And the interesting thing about it is that it can go from really light Caucasian skin tones to actually a deeper dark skin tone. Then we have the final color here. It's called liquid gold, and the reason I called it liquid gold because literally it is just packed with mica. That's how metallic watercolors are made. And this particular mica is, boy oh boy, it loves being re-wetted. There is no need with it to drop a little you know, drop of water to reactivate the watercolor, it just goes. It's like butter, like all the other watercolors. Here I have illustrated a nice little illustration, and it's one of those with the big kind of they're called bladder racks, so they're little round kind of, or oval rather, shapes, and they're hollow inside, and that seaweed is quite often found. It's usually actually in a black color, and there are some like yellow colors as well. So those are just quick illustrations to show you the colors, and hopefully you can see how it sort of goes from darker to lighter in just, you know, quick botanical algae illustration. Before we go into swatching and transparency and the pigment info and all of that good stuff, I will actually do these swatches with you. I will show you a few examples that I already kind of used some of these watercolors to create illustrations and what it looks like up and close, so that you get a better idea of what these colors can do. A couple of colors you already have seen, or you might have seen if you watched my previous videos. So in April favorites, I actually included my color, and back then I didn't reveal the color name yet, so it went down as nude. But this is the Sandy Toes, as you hopefully can recognize from the previous little algae illustration. So you can see that that's the darkest it can go to, and then you can go as light as that. You could actually go lighter than that as you add more and more water, and you're hardly left with any pigment. But I think these are a good kind of good example to show you the variety of the depth of the color. If you wanted this skin tone to be even darker, what I would recommend doing is using something like burnt sienna, or using something like Perylene Maroon for really, really rich, red, warm-toned dark skin would be a good thing you could sort of mix it with. So just a little bit of it, not much at all, because you want this to be your base color. You just want to deepen it ever so slightly. So that's what you would do. This is your base color. This is your kind of tonal addition. So that was the color Sandy Toes, the one that I have used here in this face illustration, and I showed it in a couple of videos, I think. That's the liquid gold, and as you can see, it's just so reflective and so opaque as a color, and you want that opacity in metallics. Otherwise, for me personally, unless I'm glazing and trying to create slight sort of shimmer over a watercolor, then yeah, I wouldn't care about something being very, very opaque. But when I want gold to be gold, and I want it to be, you know, not very watery and not weak, I want it to be strong. That's the gold that I want to have. And you'll see how effortless it is to paint with this gold. You don't need to do much at all. It just goes from your pen to the paper, and it just is stunning, in my opinion. Here are some examples that I have done in terms of color palettes, how you could use this watercolor palette in your other art, like in mixed media, for example. So here I have used the Sargassum, and I really watered it out, so you can see it's a very light yellow, really kind of a warm, lovely yellow. And then I paired it up with, actually with the gold as well from the palette, and some acrylic paint right here. So what I find fascinating with this liquid gold is that it looks like you used gold foil, because it's so intense. It just jumps off the paper when the light hits it, and it gives you that stunning reflection. So that's that. Then we have this beautiful floral design, which I turned into the sticker for the palette. So there you go, and I'll show you the original. So hopefully you can see the gold being super, super reflective. And here we have all of the colors from the palette. So we've got the Sargassum, we've got the red Seagrass, sandy toes, and of course a bit of the gold from the liquid gold color. And another idea that you could do is pair it up with some blues, and that also works quite well. So here I have intensified the Sargassum slightly, so it's not, it kind of, you can see it going sort of light, medium, and then dark. So this color has nice variety to it as well. It looks beautiful in each of those areas. If you're new to watercolor, some watercolors really don't look that great with when you use a lot of water and very little of the pigment. So here they are packed with pigment so that if you use a lot of water, you still get a lovely color out of them. So yeah, so we've got lovely colors going on here, and again the gold. And finally, again, I think this is, yeah, this is all 4 colors used here, paired up with a lilac-y blue as a color palette and mixed media piece. And again, so the gold is right here. Beautiful transparency of the colors. We'll get to the transparency of them in a minute, but you can basically see they look lovely layered over each other. Okay, so those are a few examples to get you going. So before we start with the swatches, I just wanted to bring you in a bit closer here to these illustrations and just show you again the color. So the first one was the Sargassum, then we have the red Seagrass, and the gold again, that's the liquid gold, and sandy toes. So let's move on to swatches, the fun part of watercoloring. And the stamp set that I used to create these swatches, they're great for color study, is the Swatch Joy, and it's available on Etsy AlyonaCreates, and this is the part I have used here. And then you have a number of things like date, pigment, light fastness, transparency, granulation, and here you could also swap that with the word transparency, and you can use that instead of saying transparency and writing yes or no or whatever transparency symbol you want to put there to keep a memo. You can also just do it visually like that so that you will see how actually transparent it is. So it's quite useful. And that's this part here, which I just I actually tend to stamp it twice, and then one in the middle, and then again one on each end to make it a nice long seamless. So you can see I muddled it up a bit here, but you can if you are really above the image with your head right there, then you can make a perfect line. So these are slowly selling out, and I'm not sure when I would be doing a restock, so if you're interested, check them out. Okay, so let's start with swatching. So first of all, oh, I just realized I wrote the pigment in the date area. All right. Sargassum, let's do that. You can see they're all re-wet really quickly. And what I would do here, or what I am going to do, you can do it differently. I'm going to start with the darkest on this side, and then using water, I will go lighter onto this side. In fact, this brush is too small. I used it for the illustration, but I need something bigger. Okay, so let's do it again. So I'm going to go into here, and then I will start adding more water as I go in into here. I will also use a little bit of water on this end to see what sort of patterns it will create and backgrounds. So the same thing I also actually will do on the transparency strip right here. So I'm just going to build it up nice and thick, and then about halfway I'm just going to pull the color out, maybe a bit more. There we go. All right, next one, a red seagrass. Beautiful, rich red color. It's a warm red. Okay, and then transparency. Like that. Next one, sandy toes. So hopefully you can see how quickly they re-wet and how smooth they are. So this one is a color that has quite a nice change to it. So basically it starts off looking quite milky, and then as it settles it will start darkening and granulating. So just show you a bit of a background like that. So out of the pigment colors, so not the mica, the pigment colors, this is the one that's the most opaque when you really pile it on. Okay, and now, so basically make sure your brush is nicely wet. You go in and there you are. It's ready. So takes exactly the same amount of time as the others. Now obviously this is a very big area here I need to cover, but I will show you a watered out gold as well. There we go. And going over the black line, you'll see you won't be able to see it. And then I'm going to add more water towards the end. There you go. All right, so I will let them dry, and then as they dry we will come back and have a closer look, and I also will show you a couple of the color wheels and things like that, the mixes that I've done in between the colors from this palette. So let's have a quick look at these swatches I've done before. So what we have is, again, liquid gold. Which way was it? This way. Yes, I remember when I first put a swatch a few weeks ago on Instagram, someone said, I really like the bottom one. So it's the same one. It's just this one is using a lot less water than here. And you can see how gorgeous it is. Here we have the sandy toes. So again, you can see goes from this beautiful light taupey color to a more deeper taupe, and it's also granulating. Then we have red seagrass, which is quite intense, as you can see. Again, you can achieve that incredible intensity when you use less water, but you can also have lovely pinks as well, and you can create lovely backgrounds with it as well. And finally, you could get this one to be opaque if you really pack it on. So this is the Sargassum. And let's have a quick look at the mixes here. So first of all, this is the color wheel that I've done the mixes with, starting with Sargassum. Then we have the red seagrass, and you can see how beautiful this orange becomes when you mix the two together. It's like intensifies it even more. Then we have sandy toes together with red seagrass makes this interesting, like a muted velvet pink, probably would be a good description. And then sandy toes together with Sargassum makes this earthy yellow, like a earthy orangey yellow. And again, we have the middle colors, and the very light colors create this beautiful pastel light tones. And finally, let's look at what liquid gold does when mixed with those three colors. So basically, the more darker your base color is, so think about all of your other watercolors in your palette as well. So the darker it is, the more you will kind of tint the base of the gold. So the gold is sitting on top, the mica is sitting on top, but the pigment still kind of shines through a little bit and mixes with it. So that's how you can tint it. But the lighter the color is, so for instance here with the sandy toes, it has done hardly anything. So yeah, but honestly, I just love using it on its own. I wouldn't want to kind of mix it too much and waste it on other colors. I just love using it as a contrast, in, as you saw before, in the abstract art or florals. Okay, so let's look at these colors as they're still drying. So we have Sargassum here, and Sargassum is, like we said, it's more of a transparent color, but if you really go in at the thickest, it'd probably be somewhere semi opaque. It could be maybe even opaque, but not as opaque as sandy toes, that's for sure. Then the pigments here are PY 100 and PR 101. I'll give you a close-up after I finish telling you all the info, and then if you wanted to write it down for your own information, you could. Then we have red seagrass, and that's a transparent color, and the pigments are PY 100 and PR 83. Then we have sandy toes, that's the most opaque and granulating color, and we have three pigments here, PW6, PBR24 and PR102. And finally liquid gold, and it's a mica based watercolor. So let me just bring you in nice and close. So here we go, Sargassum, a red seagrass, sandy toes. I will dry this and let you see the full dried look. This sort of milkiness will disappear, and then we have the gold. Okay, so here we go. You probably can see the difference now that sandy toes has dried fully, and you can probably appreciate the granulation more. So now you can see that even at the lightest point there is some pigment sitting on top of the black line. So this probably would be more of a semi-transparent, but the red is transparent, and here is the gold. So you can see with the liquid gold at its thickest, you can't even see the black line there, so it is fully opaque then. And here is the sandy toes, also opaque. Okay, so now you probably can't wait to know when these will be available. So I made a lot of these palettes this time, knowing what the demand is usually like. However, I think what I might do is divide it into two, because no one helps me, and there's a lot of packaging that goes into it, and there is a lot of, you know, preparation of the orders. So there's only so much I can do in a week. So I think what I might do is do it in two parts. So I will probably put out some stock, and then the week after I will do it again. So if you want be able to get one, then know for sure that there will be more coming, and they will be available for purchase tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 10th of May, and it's going to be 2:30 p.m. GMT. So I think I gave you all the info I could. I hope you'll be able to get your little palette and enjoy creating with it. There's something quite special with handmade watercolors, because, you know, you can imagine someone sitting there for days and days laboring over them, and it actually takes a lot of strength to mule the watercolors. Some pigments are they just love to misbehave compared to others that are quite obedient and easy to work with. But yeah, it is a fun experience to be making them. I love making them, and I love knowing that you enjoy creating with them as well. So I'll see you in my shop, and thanks for watching. I'll see you soon here as well.